I'll share my screen. Thanks for joining us at Pacer Cadence. So this is the last one of the year. It's been a while since we hosted one of these. So we're actually looking forward to sort of reevaluating this for the next year in 2026, doing some new fun and interesting things rather than just sort of updates. However, this call, we've invited everyone who is an owner, admin within all of the subscriptions. Some of you I talk to on a reoccurring basis, but basically it's open for any other people to join who are part of your organization who have that user access level. So if the message isn't getting from our one-on-one conversations out to the rest of your team, this call will be a sort of educational experience to showcase for this particular call what we've been up to at Pacer, what we've been releasing, some exciting things that are coming for next year. We'll go a little bit through the roadmap. Um, and I just want to show everyone today all about the Project Control Hub and what we call as the Project Wizard. So I'm joined here by Rich Mashenik, our founder and CEO. So both of us are pretty involved in everything that happens here at Pacer. So we've got the pretty good understanding of why things were developed, what the goal was in mind, and basically just how to get the best use case out of it. So we'll run through some of these things today. Rich, I don't know if you want to just say hello. If you can find that mute button.
Hello. Found the mute button. Took me a moment, but yeah, I'm here. So, thanks, Connor. Looking forward
Yeah,
to
awesome.
looking forward to doing this. Let's do it.
Yeah, good, good. All right, so just quick agenda. This particular call, we typically jump from PowerPoint presentations back into the application. And Rich and I were talking last week that there's just so much to go through in the application. We're going to treat today as sort of like a live demonstration. So some things we will cover, and it's okay to read through this agenda, but we'll take you through step by step in the application. But we're going to go through the Project Control Hub, understanding how the wizard works, and what is the Project Control Hub. We refer to it as PCH in shorthand. We'll go through some baseline updates that we've made to the system. You can do things in bulk, makes it easier for you to make large changes at once. Of course, one of the advantages of using Pacer over competitors of ours or even Excel, you can, once you get your tasks in the system, there's so much you can do right in Pacer to constantly update everything that the individuals at several locations and teams are doing as it's happening live. You don't need to worry about going dark with your critical path or project plan, worrying about making those changes, and then when's a good time to sort of put it back in. We're going to go through all of the changes we've made to the baseline where you can do things in bulk and constantly keep those updated. The company overview, which is everyone on this call's home screen when you log in. It's our highest view of everything that's happening inside of your organization within Pacer. Every project that's been published to every location that you have access to. We've made some changes to where you can customize this page a bit more. So we definitely want to go through that. We've had a few calls recently where some of our customers are using interesting ways to set this up for one-on-ones with their teams. So we'll definitely share some best practices there. And then just general navigation updates to some of our tables. How you can follow tasks is a pretty big one. And moving columns around has actually, since last Thursday, even arrived at the tasks page when you're at a specific location. So we'll jump into the app and go through some of these things today.
Connor, before you get into this, just remind everyone that there is a Q&A option. I see here on Teams. I don't know if I've ever used this before, so we'll see how it goes. So feel free to drop in a question if you have one, and we'll try to answer it as we go, or you can certainly use the chat bubble as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Rich.
I guess, can they raise their hand? Can you take people off of mute if they raise their hand and have a question? Can they
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, we
Let
can
me
do
know
that
who
too.
that
Okay.
is,
All
and I
right.
can, yeah.
All right. Good deal.
I'm just you're going to see us for a second. Here we go. All right, perfect. So let's get started. So a general use case. So I've logged into Pacer. We've got some work to do today that we need to make a brand new project. So if you're a longtime client, you know that you used to go to the admin page and you used to click here and there and to make a couple different components to put together to make a project. We've streamlined this process with something called the Project Wizard. If you've ever downloaded a new software or anything to your, or plugged something in on your computer where it asks you to download some software, you're probably familiar with something called a wizard that appears. Basically says like, where do you want to save these files? What do you want to do here, here, and here? It's a series of questions that guide you through how to set something up. And that's why we called it the Project Wizard. I don't think we're Harry Potter fans
You're
here or
so
anything. It's not
creative there.
a so so you can click add new project by
I want to
hovering
see.
over this
I want to see you
project
bring out
button.
your wand there, Connor. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My cloak is off screen over here. So so we'll start with a new project. So we'll give it a project name. Rich, what are we working on today? Let's give us a project name.
You can't ask me to be creative on the spot like this. Call it the Francis rollout. How about that?
Okay, the Francis rollout.
So I
There
don't
you
know what
go.
that means, but it's code word.
Yeah, there you go. Project Francis. Perfect. All right, so we'll do a description. So this is gonna be for all locations, maybe that have a team greater than 10 employees. This might be a long description. Let's see if that works. Here we have a whole bunch of individuals that we can choose from who we want to determine as the project owner. The project owner is, as like a reminder, this actually was called project implementation manager, just some small verbiage updates. What does this mean? Some people are like, why are we choosing this? If everyone here is an admin and you all belong to the same subscription, when you go to your list of projects, there can be quite a lot going on. And with so many different administrators or moderators or owners in the application, you might want an understanding of like who is actually responsible for the deployment of this project within Pacer. Maybe if you're the admin that oversees everything happening in Pacer, you notice that this project is sort of all completed from all locations and you want to just get this closed out, remove all that green from your home screen. Maybe this is someone you want to contact to say, hey, I see that you have this project. Looks like it's pretty much done. Can I help wrap that up for you? So ownership on who's responsible. We can see here in the bottom of this drop down that we actually have this button here that says add new project owner. If the person you're looking for doesn't exist on this list, you can actually add them here. So let's go super plain, so James Smith.
You got to do
And
someone
we'll,
from Harry Potter.
yeah, I don't know if I know any
So,
characters beyond Harry,
so
so
Harry Potter.
yeah, let's do a Harry Potter. You're messing up all my my soccer people in the in my subscription here. Harry Potter. All right, great. So we've added Harry, and now we'll see Harry on this list. Um, you'll notice actually as we start to do more development in Pacer throughout the next calendar year, you'll probably find this button happening more frequently in our drop-down menus. What we're trying to do is eliminate the need for you to get like, look at this, I'm 3 steps in. I've made my project name, I've made my description, and by the time I get here, if Harry's name didn't appear here already, I'd have to leave this screen to go set up that person's name to come back here to start over again. So the reason why we're adding these buttons here is to make it easier for you to be able to navigate and sort of keep moving on and not have to take a step back when a value doesn't exist, because all of these values you're in control of setting up, of course. So that's
Not to
great.
belabor the point, but I think probably the most common scenario of that is when you're creating a new location in Pacer and you need to assign it to a brand or an area or a continent, and one of those values is not existing. So that will be a nice enhancement when we get to creating new locations.
Yeah,
Not have
absolutely.
nothing to do with this, so keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. All right, so I'll click next in the top right corner. Looks like my description was not too long. We've moved on to understanding which teams do I anticipate that will be completing this project. This isn't an end all be all question. We can always come back and add more when we get to the PCH. But I have a couple locations here. And in my calls with individuals, I'm usually like, yep, click, click, click. something that I want to take a little bit more time on to have you understand is that if this project, I mentioned in my description, it's for teams who have greater than 10 individuals or 10 employees. I don't have any filterable capability in that way, but I can click on filters and I can actually shorten this list. I think I maybe have like 50 locations here. I can shorten this list by choosing one of the filters that exist. Maybe if this is something that you have in your subscription, and I know no one does, so I'm not sure why I'm even saying maybe you have this. I know everyone's subscription and no one has this. But you can click on types. Perhaps you have like small, medium, or large team, and you can choose large because this project is intended for just that, large teams. Once you choose one of these, maybe I'll choose like focus service and I'll click apply. Once you choose one of those filters and apply, it shortens our list to only those that are part of that type or whatever other filter I decide to choose. So I'll clear this off. I think for the training today, I gave myself access to Munich. So for now, I'm just going to add one location and we'll go through later on how we can add more. So I'm going to have Munich do this project. So I've moved them over from available to selected and I'll click next. And now we're at the point where we are going to determine which tasks should be associated with this project. I can, on the right here, create new tasks one by one. In the center here, I can import them from an Excel import tool, which we actually have two new variations. We have one that's geared towards relative dates and one that's geared towards static dates. A lot of you are using the relative dates, so that's that T-minus structure. This task should be done X number of days prior to the zero date of the project. Because it's more favorable, and that's basically, what makes Pacer so great is that if we're using these T-minus structure, every time we move the zero date, all of those tasks will move their target dates at the location with that zero date. So since it's more preferred, we sort of streamlined our import tool to just have that selection made for you and eliminate those other columns of those static dates so as to not confuse individuals. I
Hey,
want to
Conan,
pause
just
here. Yeah,
click on that center button there that just to show, yeah. So once you click
yeah.
on that, this is where you can download those two different tools. So you don't have to use the big gigantic import tool that we've been making everyone use in the past. It has like, 40 columns in it or something like that. These are
Yeah.
much shorter. So, okay.
And
So
yeah,
I know
and
that's not
like
what you're going to do. So,
no, yeah, and I'm confident that I know what you're doing, but I think a great moment to sort of pause here and educate you on something that other subscriptions do is like you are the admin for Pacer for your organization, but that doesn't mean you can't download one of these and send it to someone on your team who is eager to have a project in Pacer. You don't necessarily have to make them an admin or moderator and teach them how to use the system. You can say, yeah, that's great. You want to have a project. I'm going to send you something called an import tool. You'll fill in the columns in red. It may have a 30-minute call with them to teach them how to use the import tool. They can fill it out and they can provide it back to you to update to the project that you create on their behalf. That's another reason why we wanted to make this a little bit more digestible, is because it's understandable that it's not always up to you, the admin, to do this. We made it a little bit more digestible so that you can send it to other people from your team so that they can start doing that work for you. We're all about delegation, so you're welcome. So that's great. To make it even easier, we also have something called copy from existing project. Once I click there, it takes me to a new screen that says, here are all the other projects that you have in your subscription, and these are all the baselines related to them. You can see that I see like annual budget rollout happen several times. That's the name of the project. And it's happening 3 times because there are 3 different baselines associated with that project. I can choose one or many. So I can choose one of these or several of these. I'm actually going to remove these. I'm going to copy something that I know has a lot of information, which is an opening project. My full service opening project. And I'll go ahead and move this one over and this one. All right. So pleased with that. I'll go ahead and move on to the next step. And now I'm at the last step, actually, which is publish project. It's possible that I might not want to publish this just yet, and I can say that I'm finished and always come back at a later time. I'm prepared to move forward with Munich, so I'm actually going to publish this project. It used to be that you always had to click this checkbox and always interact with your locations with this drop down with bulk updating. However, we totally understand that's a little bit confusing when you only need to publish one project. Why does it make you go to a bulk update? In the age of iPhones and pressing on buttons directly, we've moved towards more of this icon base where you can actually just find some icons in the row with Munich. You can see this little paper airplane, and if I hover my mouse here, a little note pops up that this says publish. I'm ready to publish this project. I will choose the baselines that I've associated with this. You can see that they've been renamed. I copied baselines from another project, but that baseline name already exists. So it actually renamed them for me. We found it's pretty common that people who are creating projects, they name their baseline and their project the same exact name. So we took that common practice and brought that into the way we set up our project control hub and our project wizard is that if you're associating baselines with this project, it makes a copy of that baseline and renames it to exactly the project name. So I'll choose both of those and I'll choose a 0 date. And I'll go ahead and publish this project. So that'll work in the background and our draft project will switch to published and we're on our way. So I'm going to finish this out here and we'll jump over to the project control hub and Rich and I will show you around on some capabilities that you can do from that page. All right. So I'll head over to projects. When I click on projects, it's going to pull up opening. It's not going to pull up whatever I just created. The reason here is actually I can click this drop down. And if you see, opening is a favorited project of mine. The way that this project button works is that when I click on it, it will take me to the last project that I marked as a favorite, which in this case is opening. If maybe I move teams within the organization, but I'm still using Pacer, I'm not really interested in the opening project. Perhaps I'm part of a department that rolls out brand standards. I would probably mark this as my favorite. And next time I click projects, this is my home loading screen. Move over to the Francis rollout here. And here we are. So Rich,
Yep.
what do you think? What do you think? The next best thing you want to do here, since you're the project manager.
Well, I would say that let's just quickly take a look at the page layout. So
Yeah,
we've the PCH is kind of broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tabs, kind of in the middle of the page. So locations and teams is now showing the location, the Munich location that Connor had selected during the wizard process. If he goes into the next tab, which is task lists, you'll see that this lists out the Francis baseline 1 and the Francis baseline. Francis, I shouldn't have used that. That's going to be really hard for me to say. But if you then expand out each of those kind of individual baselines, just kind of grouped, these are all the tasks that he had copied over into this particular project. And then we can look at some of the other tabs as we go, but that's kind of the starting point. So we've got the tasks that he created during the wizard process, and we've got the locations. Kind of let's say that Munich is not the only one doing this. There's a lot of locations that have more than 10 people. Let's say we want to include all locations in a particular brand because we know that particular brand always has more than 10 employees. So let's say that like all the locations in the Palmer brand need to be brought over to be put into scope.
yeah, great call out. So at my project, I'm on my locations and teams tab, and I've got this button here that says add locations teams to scope. very similar to the previous page that we were on, where we're just moving locations from left to right. I can click on projects and I can navigate by brand. I'll choose Palmer and apply, and it'll update all of my locations where the brand is Palmer. I'll select all. It will move all of them over to my selected drawer, and I'll just go ahead and add all of those locations at once. So now we're all in scope. And I have the ability to, like I showed you before, to do one by one, but I can also choose a handful, come up to this bulk update, and I can actually publish and click apply. Doing this, the 3 locations that I've selected, of course, will share the same 0 date, but we'll go ahead and set them up and publish.
Awesome. So now that you published that, let's say I wanted to actually take a look at the task that you then just created for Chicago. Just to like validate that that 0 date you selected and the way that the task target dates got calculated look the way that I'm kind of expecting them to look. I'm
Yeah,
gonna wait for
definitely.
this to finish
Yeah.
actually publishing, but
Yeah, well, while that's loading, let's actually just jump over to Munich, right? So since that
oh
exists
yeah, that
already.
works. Yeah,
Yeah.
same concept,
So,
same date.
yep,
Yep.
same thing. So I'm at Munich here. I'm on this row. I see my 0 date is
Oh,
23rd of May. Oh
too
yeah, let's go
late.
to
It already
Chicago.
finished.
So,
I get to
all
do
right, so it's
Chicago after all.
Chicago. Yeah. So we're on 20th of February, right? I want to validate this, always trust but verify. Big important lesson, right? I come over to my icon set here. There's a bunch of things that I can do. Something that, when we rolled this out, these existed, but there was a new icon that we sort of slipped in after the large rollout of this PCH, and it's this icon all the way on the right. It looks like a series of tasks with check marks. When I hover, it says open location and new tab. So I'll click here. Oh, okay.
But
Maybe. Oh,
you
you
got to
know what?
refresh. You got to
I
refresh
probably.
first. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say I also might not have access to that location, but let's see. There we go. Yep. All right. So I click over here, and it's gonna take me into a new tab, and it should show me the list of all of those tasks here. There we go. So yeah. Okay. Well,
I don't have any
should.
tasks, man.
I think I know the reason actually is that I don't have access to that community. So let's fix that. So I'll head over to my task list, and this is where I can manage the tasks that are existing in my environment here. So I'll click on this Francis rollout. I'm gonna click all of these tasks, and I need to make a change in bulk. So I have my select bulk action. I want to update some attributes that are common amongst all of these tasks. I'll click apply. And actually, there's a community that exists that I don't have access to. That's why I can't see them. I set up a special community just for this call called Cadence, and now it's working against me since I didn't consider all of that. So I'll change all of these tasks to actually be part of the Cadence community that I set up. Um, Now, when I head back to locations and teams and I click on the checklist for Chicago, should show me all of those tasks now that I see them in my community. So here they all are. So, having this ability to, I think this is the first time, Rich, that we've actually added a button where something opens in a new tab in your browser. And I think that's, I hear a lot from individuals how they're like, I have so many tabs open of Pacer and I'm jumping back and forth. It feels like people do that for a reason. That this is probably another huge reason or a huge win of why we added that as a different tab. Go ahead. I think you're going to say something.
No, yeah, well, we've avoided trying to create multiple tabs at Pacer because your timeout does take into account every tab that you have open. So you've got a tab that's open and you don't click on it within, 15, 20 minutes or whatever, it will time you out of all the tabs. So from a just annoyance perspective, getting timed out, we've avoided opening up to multiple tabs. But I thought it made sense here because I potentially want to, if I wanted to change the 0 date and then see the impact on this particular tasks list, I don't have to necessarily close it, go back and forth, go back and forth. I can just go to the other tab, back to the control hub, change the date here, then open the other tab and refresh it, so on and so forth. But don't do this quite yet, Connor. Let's take a look at
Yeah, yeah,
those tasks, if you will. Um,
yeah,
yeah, so let's say that this particular location's task. So then let's go. Looks like the tasks are starting on the 16th of May. Oh, wait a second, they're past due. They were supposed to start the 16th of May, way back when. Let's say, that's a little unrealistic since those dates are in the past. Let's move a couple of these dates to be like today or tomorrow, something like that, so that they're not immediately showing as past due. Um, so if you just want to open up one of these and change the date, that'd
yeah,
be
sure.
awesome.
So just go
Let's
ahead
just
and update the
so
due date since I have this access in
Yeah, that's a
my
good point.
user
Like
profile. Yep.
standard user probably doesn't have access to do this, but maybe a project manager or an administrator, or maybe even the general manager has access to change a date on the particular tasks. So we've customized that particular date. So now that I've kind of customized that date, what happens if like the entire project needs to shift? So now I've got like a mix of dates. I've got all of these tasks that are based on the 0 date. But then I've also got this one date that I've customized for that one specific task. If I was to move the opening or the 0 date at this point, what's going to happen to that particular task?
Yeah, great question. So, um, what used to happen, and we've made improvements here, is that if I change the 0 date now, that task that I updated to be due today, when I change the 0 date, it will seek through all of the baseline tasks and say, okay, this task is due 100 days prior, this task is due 67 days prior. It will reset all of my custom overwritten target dates at Chicago back to what the baseline expectation was. So a full reset, whatever you said the baseline task was due on the T minus structure, that's what it will be. However, we have made improvements to that. That now when I navigate back to Chicago and I do want to update that 0 date, I have a few options here, and these options are asking me what do I want to happen with those tasks. I only changed one in this case, but the task where I purposefully changed the due date of that task. What do I want to happen here? Um, so we'll always have this help article reference down here in this so that you can always read up on it and understand it on your own. And there's even a real life example. But there's three options. Full reset is what I just mentioned. So we're starting at the bottom here. And that's the way it used to work. No matter what I overwrote these task target dates to be, goes back to the baseline expectation. A simple shift means that if I move the 0 date from 20th February by 1 month, so I'll go to give or take a couple days since February is short. Let's say March 24th. Let's call that 30 days. If I move the 0 date by 30 days, all of those tasks where I manually overwrote the target date will also move by a simple shift of 30 days later or 30 days into the future. So there's that. And then keep custom dates. If you remember, I chose tomorrow as the due date for that task. I chose 10th of December. If I keep custom dates, that means, well, I chose 10th of December for a specific reason. So when I change this 0 date, update all tasks that I have not manipulated, but all those ones that I did manipulate, keep them at the exact date that they're set to. I prefer that they not move. I did that for a reason. Let's keep it that way. How's that,
Awesome.
Rich?
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
So a couple of decisions to be made when moving a 0 date now. But is awesome that we now have the flexibility to not just force everything to be reset back to the baseline. That's awesome. No, right now you've got it labeled as like 0 date. But let's say that instead of it being called 0 date, I don't necessarily think my locations are going to understand what the hell 0 date actually means. Can I
Yeah.
change that to like go live date or some other phrasing so that on the dashboard and all the places that my location teams are looking at, that they don't see it as go live date anymore?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I just want to say one thing before I move away from this page is it's also so great to have options, but for some of our clients, it's a bit, makes them freeze up because they say, all right, Connor, this is great. What should I be clicking? So not a lot of people ask this question, and some people do. And I just want to make sure I'm level setting for everyone on the call. Your go-to selection on this three option set here is probably going to be simple shift. So just so that you feel a little bit confident moving forward about like which selection should I be looking for, I'm going to assume it's probably simple shift. Of course, always consult with your team because each project is different. However, it's highly likely that simple shift is probably going to be your new go-to. That's why we put it at the top. Great. So let's talk about changing that zero date name. It's totally valid. Zero date is definitely a project manager term. Let's go ahead and see what we can do to edit that. Um, so we are going to go to set up like the project, like the editing the actual name of the project. You used to go to the project list of all your projects and click on that action menu, which you still can. It's those three dots all the way on the right of the row of the project name. However, with the new PCH, we've added in this tab called project details. Here we can rename our project. Francis rollout was a bit tricky for Rich to say when it's multiple. We just did our holiday cards. How do you say the Franci, the Francises? It's always a big debate each year between all of the cousins and all the in-laws of like, how do you actually pluralize Francis? So you can change the name here if you want, but also zero date name is right here at the bottom. Like Rich mentioned, zero date, that's interesting. Again, project manager term. For you and all your organizations, your ending date of this project, it could be the opening day of the location. It could be the soft opening. It could be you just want to set it a week prior just because you're not a risk taker and you just really want to be prepared for anything that happens. But for this case, let's call it we're going to call it go live because this is the rollout of something. So we're officially saying that this is the go live day for whatever we're rolling out. So I'll rename this to go live. What do you think, Rich? Happy with that? Okay.
Happy.
Something else here that I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of, but you can also tag your project. So I can give a tag to say to call out something. This rollout we're imagining probably has something to do with changing our brand standards. So I'll actually tag this project as a brand standard related. All those individuals that receive this project at their location would see this tag on the dashboard page for Munich. So we'll go ahead and keep that. Let's save our changes. Awesome.
Yeah, why don't
All right.
you actually go to the dashboard and let's take a look at it.
Yeah, let's take a look. So I'll go to the dashboard for
And
Munich.
close that other
Here,
tab before I forget about it.
yeah, sign this out.
Thanks.
So we got Francis rollout happening here. It's a fairly new project, and we can see our tag here in the top right corner for brand standard. Yeah.
And
Cool.
if you click on view project resources link for any of those, you can see that the date section now says it's the go live date. So
Yes.
and then for certain companies, there's actually the ability to add in multiple dates as like important dates to remember. You can also name those as well if your company has chosen to use what we call epic dates. So that would also show up here.
Yeah, some examples of that
Side
is
comment.
if you're in like the hotel world, perhaps you're selling rooms online, maybe like 60 days prior to opening. So a lot of our teams like to call, our clients like to call that out. This is our sell date, construction handover date. So it could be anything. Yep. Yeah, awesome.
Great. So let's
These
say
tags,
that, no, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say these tags actually came from user feedback as well. A lot of individuals wanted to, perhaps there's multiple projects happening at the location after it's been opened or it's getting all these rollouts. Location GMs want to know like what's important to them, and by tagging them, it helps prioritize initiatives. So just wanted to call that out. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, the GMs want to know, like, is this going to help me save money or help me make money? Right. So a great way to be able to call that kind of stuff out through tag. And you can have multiple tags as you want, if you want as well, so that they are is very obvious to the team members at the particular location or property exactly what the benefit of that particular project is. So Gunnar, I was just thinking about like a different scenario. Let's say that Chicago or Munich is actually no longer going to participate with this particular project. We found out that they actually have less employees that we thought they would, than they actually did. So how do we just take it away from a particular property using the new PCH?
Yeah, great call out. So let's click on projects. I didn't favorite this, so it'll take me back to my opening, but I'll quickly switch over to.
Connor,
I
oh,
know.
it, oh, that waste
So
of time. Okay.
too many clicks. So we're on the Francis rollout. I've got Munich. There's two situations here. There is a permanent removal of this project to say, hey, Munich, this is an accident I made. You actually don't need to do this project at all. I know you've started a few tasks, but that's okay. Completely forget it ever happened. We never need to publish this again. It was a complete mistake. I can come to the PCH, to my locations and teams tab, find Munich. I can even filter by name if I wanted to, if you have a lot going on here. And right here in my icon set, there are some other options here. This one second from the right, if I hover my mouse, it says revoke project. Revoke is the permanent. I know you've uploaded some files, you've completed some tasks, you've made some comments, you've assigned the tasks out. Revoke, completely undo, never to be brought back again, unless we republished and hopefully people remember the comments they made, the files they uploaded, and the tasks that they completed. But if it's paused, perhaps Munich is down to a few employees, maybe they're down to 8, and they're in the hiring process. We published it too early. I can also pause this, and that's putting it on hold. Pausing just means that we will keep the task statuses that you've set. The comments will be there and the files will be there. What we're going to do is just remove it temporarily from the screen. We're basically hiding the project and the tasks so that we can bring them back again. I will say that after all of my interactions with clients, pause project is the more favorable version of this, just in case there's any time in the future where they need to say, oh yeah, our HVAC broke 8 months in. Who installed it? Were there any issues in the installation process? Maybe we uploaded the manual or the contact person of who we purchased the HVAC system from. You can always bring the project back off of hold, investigate that task, and then place it back on hold to hide it in that inactive. So let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. So I'll pause the project here quickly. It will run its course and pause, and you'll see that it'll be hidden from the dashboard. I don't know if I clicked it. There you go. There you go. So I'll navigate back to the dashboard like it never happened.
They kind of when I'm ready to bring that back, do I just click the same icon?
Yeah, so it actually refreshed with new icons. So Munich has a fun play button here now. I'll go ahead and just click unpause project is what the words that appear when I hover my mouse. Now that it's been unpaused, like it never happened, here we are. Those tasks will still be
Awesome.
assigned to individuals. All those tasks will reappear on their daily digests should they be getting them. So you can expect it to sort of pick back up. You may want to change your zero date though after you do that, depending on how long the project has been on hold. So not only can you bring it off of hold, but you can also quickly just change the zero date at the same time, or maybe do anything else by adding a baseline or changing the project implementation person at that location, which is different than the coach. Coach is more of the location level person. Implementation manager is again of the admin team who's responsible for this project's success.
So kind of we
So yeah,
talked a lot about locations and just in interest in time, let's talk a little bit about what if I need to make a change to a task that's part of that particular project. Can I do that here, or do I have to go to the baselines page in admin to do that?
yeah. One of the advantages of the project control hub, and another reason why it has that name, because you can control everything about the project. So I can click on task lists. These are the baselines that are associated with this project. And I can actually edit and work with all of the tasks that appear here. So I've expanded the view. I can click on a singular task, which opens up this modal, which is all of the information about this particular task, where I can make my edits. And just as you're familiar with, those edits will trickle down to all the locations where this task exists. I can interact with these checkboxes, or I can also, oops, clicked on a task. Can interact with these checkboxes as well, where we still have our bulk action menu here. As you remember, I just clicked on update attributes to have to change the community for all of these tasks. I can still add new tasks on this page, which we'll get to in a second, and then bulk push down that newly added task to all the locations where this project exists. Reordering tasks, inactivating, preview the push down, all the same things you're familiar with in the old way, still available here. And I'll get to the icons in a moment, Rich. Just want to touch base one more time on like, how do I actually add a task or add a new baseline? This button here in the top right corner, by clicking on add, you're able to add a baseline task. And a new feature that exists here on this particular button is that if I'm on my project control hub and I have two baselines like I do here, I can add a new task and I can add that same task to both baselines that exist within this project. So the task will appear twice, once on Francis rollout and again on Francis rollout 2. I can set the description and the target days out, and it will create that task at both baselines. I don't have to choose both. I could just choose one. That's okay too.
Yeah, and just to clarify that if you're choosing both, that's going on the expectation that you're not going to be assigning assigning both baselines to the same property location, or else that would duplicate that task, right? So this is a great example when you've got multiple baselines in a particular project, because you're picking and choosing. Maybe you've got one baseline for locations that are in North America, you've got another baseline for some special tasks that are in Asia Pacific. You you could add it to both of those baselines because you wouldn't be associating both of those baselines to the same location.
Yeah, definitely. Great call out. The other portion of this button is a drop-down menu where you can import more tasks to an existing baseline. Or in that import button, you can even add a new baseline that doesn't exist yet. So we can make Francis rollout 3, and then we can import and grab the import tool and import a brand new set of tasks to a brand new baseline. We also have the option to copy tasks from an existing project, just like we did when we set this one up. Or just create a new baseline in general, maybe add tasks to it later, but we just want to set up the baseline name and have it exist. However, these icons are also a great way to interact with baselines as well. So I'm on the Francis rollout baseline. I can click this button here. This will allow me to edit the baseline. I can pop this baseline out and expand on its tasks to have a more dedicated page with a table that just shows these tasks. I can add a baseline task, or I can even just remove this baseline from the project. Let's click on the pop out option. If I click here, and it takes me to the page as if I went to my admin menu, clicked on task templates baselines, and I'm viewing my baseline in its entirety on one dedicated page. All of the same features that exist on the other page should be there. Maybe this like Gantt chart is something you don't have on that other page. Maybe not yet, but you know, adding columns and all that. It's basically one and the same, just a different way to view it. If you didn't want to leave your project control hub, we're offering you the opportunity to have to click less and navigate away from where you're working to get your work done on one single pane of glass.
Connor, while
Awesome.
you're here, why don't you show, or I guess go back to the PCH if you want. I'm not sure where you're going next, but while you're here, why don't you show off how people can customize the order of their columns on their page here too.
Yeah, great call out. So right now, we are showing all of these columns for start date, static date, target date, job title. Perhaps I'm doing an audit of job titles and the tasks that we've assigned to them. And, you know, this is not too far apart, but it would be easier if they were right next to each other. You can actually click and drag and move job title to a different position on the table. If I log out and I log back in, it will remember exactly where I left these columns. I can do my work and I can always put it back. And you can do the same thing on that other page we were just viewing as well. move them around. That's an improvement that we've made at a few tables within the admin world. However, in the latest update with Pacer, we actually added this ability on the location task page. So I can navigate to the task page for Munich and also move my columns around as anyone who has access to that page. It doesn't matter your access rights. You can start moving them around. And what's great is that that only affects you and your login. So somebody else can have, I don't know, status first, then additional info, then task name. I'm not sure if that's too helpful, but if that's the way they can get their work done most efficiently, they can go ahead and set that. And when they log back in, it'll be set that way. So you also mentioned reassigning tasks in the right order. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've got two tasks that are both due 39 weeks and 2 days prior to the zero date. That's great. However, I would prefer that when this does appear at Munich, that the select the room types appears before determining all room rates. So I can select one or both of those tasks, and I can click on select bulk actions. And by clicking on order task, it's going to pull all of the tasks that are on the same due date. So if you notice, I only had to select one of them. It'll pull all the tasks that are sharing the same relative target date, and I can actually just click and drag and reorder them. What that means is that now at Munich, if I go to the task list for Munich, it will show them in this order immediately as I've reorganized it here on this page. That is what we call like trickles down to the location level. So and it's an immediate change. Awesome. What else you got, Rich? Anything else you want me to cover on this page? We've got about 12 minutes left.
No, I don't remember what else is on your agenda, so I'll let you circle back to that and I'll stop asking you questions related to the PCH. There's a lot of functionality in this page. One thing we did not get to is like there is a support tickets tab here. So this kind of pre-filters out any support tickets that were created by your users that relate to this specific project. That's a quicker way to respond to project-specific support tickets. Project files, anytime a location team member has uploaded a file to a task that is associated with this particular project, it will show this. So this is like all files that have been uploaded across all locations. Very helpful if you've got a particular task on your project timeline that's asking them to submit a form or submit some sort of documentation, validation that they've completed a task, whatever it may possibly be, allows you to quickly go through all the files across all locations that are working on this particular project. Anyway, so yeah, lots of stuff here. If you've got more questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can spend more time to try to explain kind of what's happening. I'm going to guess that most people on this call work enough with projects, they'll probably be able to figure it out, but get in there and navigate around, click around. I think you'll find that's a lot easier than the dozen or so different pages you had to go to manage projects before. So great. Sorry, Connor. What did you have on your, what else was on your agenda?
There's just two more things I want to touch on, and then I think it'd be a good time to go through some of the roadmap items and take any questions. So where I want to take us now is actually the location level task page. So I'm at the task list for Munich. Two new things that exist here. It has to do with selecting tasks in multiple. So I'm going to select quite a few tasks here. We talked about moving the due date or the target date of a particular task at a particular location and how those changes are affected when we change the zero date now with simple shift, full reset, or keeping the specific dates we chose. In the multi-selection dropdown, there's a few new options here. The most recent update is this shift dates that allows us to move multiple target dates of multiple tasks all at once. So I've selected about 4 here. If I click shift dates and apply, I can select a numerical value either forward, so 50, or I can even do like negative 15, and I can move these tasks 15 days backwards. The button for shift dates is only visible to those individuals where in their profile the toggle is on that allows them to manipulate target dates at the location level. So I can move them, and I can choose to move the target date and the start date, or just the target date. And I do want to let you know that's pretty important here, that I think is a really great aspect of this feature, is that there are fail safes in place that say if I'm moving one of these 4 tasks, if I'm moving the target date beyond a dependence task, so if that's available in your subscription, if you have the ability to do prerequisites and dependence, if I'm moving one of these tasks to be due after a dependent, I will get an error message to say that, like, hey, you can't move pool deck clean and free of hazards beyond put the chase lounges out, because they're prerequisites of each other. When that error happens, I'll just have to reassess and reevaluate, and then I can come back and try again once I've sorted that out. Same thing happens if I'm moving like a start date only and not the target date. I will get an error to say, hey, you do have to have start dates that are greater than target dates. So that's one feature that recently came out. Something else I want to share with you that we're continuing development on is the following tasks. So as you know, tasks can only be assigned to one person at a time. However, if you're a multi-unit leader, or you just have a vested interest from the corporate to the location level, you can click on one or several tasks, choose this bulk actions, and choose to follow a task. You can always unfollow them at a later time. Right now, by following tasks, you can group them together, and then you can filter your page by tasks that I'm following. So that way you can keep track of that. And in the future, we're seeking to implement something like an email that gives you an update on all of the tasks that you've elected to follow. Good call to action to log in to say, hey, things are changing and things that you have a vested interest in. Those are the
Connor,
last
did
2
you
things that I
show
wanted to
here
cover.
how they can like if they are following tasks, how do they quickly filter out this page just to see just the ones that they're following?
Yeah, definitely. Let me follow a few. And then now that I'm following, I see this eyeball icon that denotes that. And in this task drop down, I can click on my following tasks, and it will filter out only the tasks that I'm following.
Great.
And of course, if you're following tasks at multiple locations, you can set that parameter up as well. Great. I'll pause here. I think the next thing we have to discuss is roadmap, and then any questions. Anything else you want me to talk through while we're still in the app?
No, that's just great, Connor.
Yeah,
I don't
awesome.
see anybody that's got their hand raised. I thought someone raised their hand earlier, but it went down, I believe. So, or I'm looking at the wrong thing. So, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll stop and pause for Q&A. Great. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's kind of on our roadmap for Pacer for the future that we're kicking around. So a lot of this is very high level. So if you've got some suggestions or some ideas, we'd love to hear what they actually are. Connor, can you make this full screen? Is that
Oh yeah, of
possible?
course.
Make it a little bigger? Okay, thanks. I'm getting older, man. You gotta help me with my eyesight here. So you just made it small again. No, okay. All
Did
right. So we're kind of grouping a lot of our stuff in a roadmap based on 4 kind of core categories, if you will. The first one's related to accelerating productivity. So anything we can do to help your property teams get tasks done faster, easier, to communicate internally easier, so on and so forth, we want to do. AI, of course, is what everybody's talking about in the tech industry. It seems like right now, or really any industry right now. So a lot of our customers kind of had us hold off on some AI tools because they were trying to figure out internally what they would allow their team members to do when it comes to playing with AI. I think a lot of that's kind of getting settled. So we're talking about how do we introduce more AI related stuff into the application. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, a lot of these things, but from an AI perspective, it's really just how do I complete the task easier and faster? Does that mean AI can help me write an email or post a comment on a task to either follow up with someone that's working on it, or I want to delegate this particular task to somebody? maybe I want to reach out to a vendor and ask them to place an order about this particular task. We know, from the task information, we could put together a fairly nice email on behalf of the task person who's responsible for completing that task. So of course, everything we do needs to be in a secure scenario. It needs to be, not sharing your proprietary information to the general public. So of course, that's the highest priority first. But we think that we can probably do a lot of things to help accelerate productivity with the benefit of using AI. The third one on the list there is a better integration with SharePoint and or Teams chat. Think like if you're going to upload a file, maybe you'd rather upload the files to SharePoint instead of uploading them into Pacer. But at the same time, you want the link to the file that you just uploaded into SharePoint to be put into Pacer so you can find it easier later, that sort of thing. Or maybe even if you're a big user of Teams and using chat feature within Teams, maybe you like to start a conversation about that particular task using Teams. So how do we integrate, or start a Teams chat within Pacer? Connor already mentioned the fourth one on the first column, which is additional email notifications related to tasks you're following. That's currently in development. We're also working on an email notification to notify people when a task has been assigned to their name. Right now, that's coming out on the daily digest, but that's not quite fast enough for some people. So there'll be an additional email notification you could turn on for that. We're also hearing that people want a faster notification when a task, a prerequisite task has been completed for the task that they are working on, so that they can get started with their task as soon as possible. And then the last thing is intelligent search. Right now, a lot of our search capabilities within Pacer are very specific. So if you're looking for tasks related to for linen, you have to type in like specific words related to linen and it has to match that exactly. And we think there's probably some ways to introduce a little bit more intelligent search to help you search for things that are related to linen, maybe not just tasks, but maybe files, so on and so forth. We don't want to turn this into Google where you end up with thousands of search results. So there is a balance to that, but we think that we could probably make our search capabilities a little bit more dynamic. Deeper insights. We've got a brand new overview page. So the company overview page is going to ultimately be retired and replaced entirely. So we want to make this very customizable for you and your organization. So you as an administrator will actually be able to create your own dashboard, if you will, for what specific things your company is most interested in reviewing. Kind of break it up into different tabs. So you could have one tab that's highlighting a specific project. So on the overview page, you could see all the locations that are responsible for a particular project and how they're doing it. Keep going, Connor, because I'm going to run out of time, and I know people probably have other meetings since it's a Tuesday. Collaboration tools, you talked about AI. We want to make sure that it's easier for properties to understand the project goals and what they're expected to receive from an ROI perspective when they're working on a project. We think that will help you all with getting greater engagement with your locations and completing tasks for their projects and getting them ideally completed on time. We are looking to do updates to our iPhone and Android apps. It's been several years since we've made any major enhancements to those, but we are starting to see a little bit more people use the apps. So as more people use the tools, we'll try to improve the app functionality. The last thing I've mentioned here, performance health or platform health. If your company's not using single sign-on, we will encourage you to turn on single sign-on so that people don't have to remember a separate username and password for Pacer. You can just use your enterprise username and password. If you don't want to incorporate that, then we will be strongly encouraging you to turn on two-factor authentication within Pacer. And then app systems redundancy, just a quick note there that we've spent a lot of time in 2025 working on how we make our systems more redundant. So in the event of a major disaster at our data center, that things can immediately just be spun up at another data center and just continue to run as if nothing happened at all. So you have full redundancy is the word for the Pacer application. We do know that we've seen in the last couple of weeks that Azure had a big outage. Cloud, who was it? Wasn't
Cloudflare.
Cloudflare?
Yeah.
Cloudflare had a big outage. AWS had a big outage. So those things will happen. But anything we can do to protect our users and making sure they can always get access to Pacer, we can certainly take those steps to do so without any major outages. All right,
Awesome.
it is
Yeah, we're at
exactly.
our
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
All right,
We've
we're
all
out of
got meetings to
time.
come
I
to.
see. We'll stay on the line if anybody has some questions. We appreciate it. People need to leave. Thank you so much for joining us, Connor.
Yeah, thank you. We'll send an email out with the recording and the survey as well. Thank you so much. Rich, I'm gonna jump if you want to stay.
Okay,
So I
I'll
gotta go to
stay
train.
on for
Yeah,
people that's posting questions. Yep.
excellent. If the call ends, he'll still be in the chat. Thanks.
Oh, fair point.